This is Laura Fryer's latest video, and it's titled Learning from Layoffs. And
Was she a Ubisoft employee?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think she was EA.
EA? Okay.
I think, or Activision. I can't remember exactly. I don't think Ubisoft, though.
Well, Bulk Squad Thrust says she's based, so
Oh, she's extremely based. You not know her?
No, I've never seen her videos ever.
Oh man, God, she films in the other side of my room here. See the
I was
background?
gonna say she looks like she films in your fucking location. Like
she has great style. What can I say? All right, here we go. Laura Fryer talking about layoffs in the industry.
Layoffs used to be a last
What's that?
Nacho Ninjas. She's from Naughty Dog.
Oh, Naughty Dog. Okay.
ditch effort to save a studio. Game companies would find that they could no longer pay salary, and so they'd slim down their team and try to make it until they could find new financing. Now they seem to be a trend. They seem to be accelerating, and it's heartbreaking because there is a real human cost for doing layoffs. It's one of the most destructive things you can do to a team. And the worst part is that it doesn't have to be this way. If game leaders start managing their content production, their teams, and their costs, the industry could return to a stable place where layoffs are the exception, not the rule.
I was going to say, but go ahead. You go first.
Well, I disagree with this because if the games they keep putting out, even if they lower the budgets, even if they minimize the teams, if the games they keep putting out are what we've been seeing for the last several years and are filled with the obvious ideological bogus that we oppose, not the your source game stuff, but like the actual ideological bogus, they still won't sell. Sure, they won't be hit as hard because it's cheaper to produce, but the game still won't sell, and that's a bad model. So I don't know that I agree with what you just said.
I hear what you're saying. I would counter that with saying I think what's implied that she doesn't say there is by doing this, you are slimming the team down to the actual talented people, and you get the loud voices out of the room that are from the game industry up that ruin the games. And if that's the case, then I think
that's a more optimistic appraisal, one of which I appreciate.
Yeah.
For context, it helps if you understand a little bit about the stages of development to understand what one of the key problems is here. Simply put, there are 3 phases of production. You have ideas and you're trying to translate them into plans that can be built. You need to be small and agile. You can't have a large team working on the game during pre-production. You can't, because it slows you down too much. Almost all of the code is done, almost all of the content. And guess what? It's time to slim the team down again.
At the end of every production, they draw on a whiteboard a plane that's on fire.
Which this is true, by the way, because I've worked in the game industry as a QA tester. Would you bring these people
on as contractors, or would you bring them on as actual employees of the company if you're just going to let them go after 6 months?
Contractors typically.
That's what I would say too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like that was my experience in the QA team. It was a contract position where the problem with the game industry is the instability of your position, and you are brought on being told that they need you today. They might not need you tomorrow. They might not need you next week. My position was fortunate where I had the QA job for 8 months before they started laying people off. And once they started laying people off, I survived that, or not laying people off, sorry, ending the contracts. Or people are, what's the problem with being QA at a game team is like, you don't know if you're going to be there next week. And you're trying to like plan your bills out and your mortgage, or not, your mortgage, your rent at that time, and trying to pay rent and trying to pay utilities.
Yeah, I had to have a roommate. I was making good money doing what I was doing, but because of the instability and worry, I was like, I need a roommate just in case.
Oh no, I had a roommate too, but I still had to pay half. And I'm like, if I got let go, it would be screwed.
Right.
So it's not a job or a career path for the faint of heart. And I think inherently it brings in people that are not prepared for success going in, which kind of breeds a very awkward work environment every day. But
game.
Oh, that's from GDC.
During the ship phase,
I covered this video on my channel. This is from GDC 2025.
It's kind of amazing how much of this can apply to government as well. Like,
or anything, really. Yeah.
Game development and government are wildly intertwined in that regard. And really, like you said, any industry.
Mm-hmm.
rolls off. And in the short term, they typically rest, they take some time off, they come into the office a little later and leave a little earlier. But that downtime doesn't last forever. Soon the team is eager to get back to creating. Talented artists want to make art. They don't want to hang out in the office all day doing nothing. When you ship, it's a perfect time for your competitors to steal your best artists, and they will. Passionate creators need to create, so one option companies take is to have everyone work on downloadable content. The team that is rolled off the game can work on new maps, levels, weapons, skins, items that can be shipped later that fans will enjoy and that might bring in a little additional money to keep the studio afloat. I know in recent years, many gamers have gotten upset about downloadable content because they feel like it should be shipped with the game. But the reality is that it's often not ready. This is why it's desirable to have multiple games in different stages of development.
Which is also why it's so dangerous, because that's how a house of cards comes crashing down. If you have one massive failure and you are siphoning money out of your company, you're trying to keep it afloat to get the next game out, and that game that you just published fell flat, then what do? It's like, are you ruining two projects instead of one, and everyone's out of a job because of it.
Also take on work from another studio. And you see this happening a lot. They essentially get paid to have their people working on someone else's game while they finish up their own. For example, Crystal Dynamics is currently working on a new Tomb Raider and co-developing a reboot of Perfect Dark with the Xbox studio called The Initiative. Crystal did recently announce a layoff, but it was much smaller than it would have been if they weren't working on multiple projects. Some studios will hire contractors to bulk up.
It almost kind of feels like the airport to fill planes. You don't want to fly an empty plane somewhere, so you manage your flights and work with other airlines to make sure that you're being able to get people to final destinations with multiple legs by sharing airlines with each other.
Popular option is outsourcing. There are large outsourcing companies that will help you with all different aspects of game development. It's pretty amazing. And oftentimes they can operate more cheaply than the game studio does. For example, with Virtuous, you can see a long list of titles they've worked on, including Stellar Blade and Call of Duty. And there are many more possible partners. This can allow a team to stay smaller and keep their costs down. Hiring generalists is another strategy. Of course, there are also many famous one-man band.
Well, this is the problem with gaming right now, and this is what my video coming out tomorrow is going to be focused on, about how keeping a smaller dev team is going to ensure success for the game industry in the future. Because bloating.
Oh, gee, I wonder what game inspired that video.
Right. That's pretty. No, it's actually not Schedule 1. If that's what you think.
I would think Expedition 33.
Yeah, it's Expedition 33, but Schedule 1 was one dude. That's what I'm saying.
That's true. And Schedule 1, now to be fair, I've only played an hour or two of it tops. Me and Piranha Power playing it together. But holy is that game fun.
Oh, yeah, super addicting.
I don't care about the graphics. I don't care about the more or less just dropping you like of a story. It is so damn fun to play. I'm on Schedule 1 team, like, without a doubt.
Oh, yeah, it's awesome.
Games like Stardew Valley and the recent Schedule 1, where everything was primarily done by one person. But on bigger games, they have more specialists, and specialists can't move around easily. And this brings me to the second thing I see studios struggling with: managing their people. Look, making a game with your friends is a lot of fun.
This is the biggest problem in the game industry right now, is managing your people. They're bringing in people that are pushing propaganda and agendas that we all talk about, and they get mad at us for bringing it up. It's like, no, this is the key issue right now.
Is one of the best.
It's a cowardice issue because they bring on these individuals that will look good on paper because, oh, we're hiring a black they them.
Mm-hmm.
But then when it's black they them gets upsetty spaghetti about what's going on in the office, well, they can't fire them. They don't make them look bad because that black they them will then go on and throw a fit on X and be like, oh, I was fired for my skin color or my sexual orientation or whatnot. And like they put themselves in these positions of basically a no-win scenario. It's the Kobayashi Maru of gaming.
It's also like a bad apple because they can poison people at the company to be like, oh, the company did that. Now I don't like the company and I'm working there and I don't like this company because they just did this bad thing to my friend. And it's like, maybe your friend just sucks.
jobs in the world, but it is still a business and you have to run it that way. And it's a hard business. People don't have to give you money. You're singing for your supper. If they don't like what you make, they can just not buy it. And that means you have to be even better at managing the studio and managing the team. To be blunt, I think a lot of studio leaders have become cowardly and lazy. It's
Yep.
part of why we see layoffs accelerating. Leaders aren't doing the hard things anymore. Look, I get it.
Oh, hey, look at that.
You're right. I didn't even notice that. I was so sucked into the moment. Look at this. Look at you, my fan. Way to go.
Hey.
No, but I was saying she's correct. This is why layoffs happen in mass. If you've got the one, as if there's not multiple, they, them employees or black employees or basically people who are hired on these immutable characteristics, you can't fire them outright. But if you can do mass layoffs and include them in that, then they have no case. They can't go on X and be like, "Oh, I was fired because of my skin color or the people I sleep with or whatnot." Because there was 30 other people that got laid off as well.
Right.
So it's a very good cloaking mechanism for getting rid of folks when you shouldn't have hired them to begin with.
Yep.
Like dealing with toxic people. Who does? Nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to deal with them. But guess what? The leader has to do it because that's what you're getting paid to do. And if you don't do it, it's not going to get better.
Hey,
this
more
is
shout outs to me. Look at this. I had no idea that I'm getting shouted out. Like, Kyle,
this is fucking awesome. What's this bitch's name? I'm going to need to hit her up before Smash does that. I can get her on my show first.
This is Laura Fryer. We should try to get her on SNH. That would be awesome.
I mean, or I could get her on Countercash to bring you on as well. Just saying.
There you go. That works too.
It's true with toxic
I'll give you the heads up on this, but I didn't know it was like multiple references to me. That's awesome.
People because they're abusive. If a leader doesn't curb that abusiveness and do something about it, it's not like they improve. They don't suddenly come to their senses and go, wow, I'm kind of being a jerk. I think I'll stop doing that. It never happens. They just keep being abusive. It only gets worse. There is no easy path. You either deal with the person or you lose your talent. Because your best people, they don't have to put up with the abuse. They can find other jobs, and they will. Typically, when you let someone go from a company, you don't talk about why they're being let go. But I have never seen a time when a team revolted after a toxic person or someone who wasn't performing was let go.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't happen because they already knew. Leaders walk around thinking somehow people don't know that this person isn't getting their job done or they're being...
Stephen Carroll says, you know for a fact she's pointing fingers at Matt Hansen. Facts.
Because they have to deal with these people every day. And it's incredibly frustrating to them. In fact, a lot of times managers and leaders wait so long that their best talent is already out interviewing because they've lost faith. If you're already having regular check-ins with people, you're collecting data on how they're doing, you're talking to their peers, you're giving them feedback, you're having performance reviews. If you're doing all of this, you already have all the data you need to manage people who are not performing out. And this is why I'm saying leaders are lazy, because you already have to do this in order to retain your talent. You need data on how people are doing so that you can recognize them and reward them. If this sounds harsh, you probably shouldn't lead, because dealing with people that aren't doing great work is the job. And look, I'm not saying you aren't going to give people a chance. You absolutely should. That's the whole point of the regular feedback. If they've been a great performer and they're suddenly not doing so well, you need to figure out why that is, and you need to try to help them get back on track. You shouldn't.
Well, I think a lot of the issue doesn't stem from the lack of effort from people. I think it's the lack of passion for making something that connects with a player, which brings me back to they're not gamers at heart. They're activists working in an industry where they don't fit best, which is why they're always out holding signs or screaming on lawns. They don't care about gaming.
We're taking a break from the GDC to scream just into the ether on recording. I would agree that's half of it. I would agree the other half is that a lot of these individuals didn't cut their teeth on small scale production. Like, they're now hiring on these activists on these AAA games like, Assassin's Creed or whatever it may be. they don't have this, whether they have the passion, maybe they do love games. Maybe, if I'm being generous, they were tired of being bullied for being homos, and they got home after school after getting beat up and shoved in lockers, and they played video games to escape. Great. Maybe you have the passion. But even if you do, if you don't have the skill, if you're being put on an Assassin's Creed game and you've never worked on a game before, and that's supposed to be a AAA game, you're a detriment. Like, you need people to start off in the little leagues before you get up to the big leagues.
Yeah, that's true. And that's a good point. A lot of people these days are just getting thrown in management positions. That was something I covered a while ago, where there was a manager at Microsoft who got a management position when she was like 21 years old or 20 years old. And she admits that she had no idea what the hell she was doing, but she got the management position. She even said, I'm like, I don't even know how I got. I'm like, what? That was
Well,
one
we
of
know
the
how you got
videos.
the color of your skin, or what's between your legs, or lack thereof, or whatnot. You didn't
Right.
get it on skill.
Right.
Toss someone out at the first sign of trouble. It's expensive to hire and train new people, so you should be investing in your team, their skills, and their success. Every studio has some kind of item like a foosball table or a pinball game sitting unused in the corner because it was too loud and distracted everyone that was trying to do work. In my experience, the key talent doesn't have time
You know
or
what?
any
Real
desire
quick.
to do anything.
The vast majority of folk, myself included, didn't really utilize that. What did we utilized like the free coffee, and that was it. We didn't use the foosball tables. We didn't use the arcade games. Now to show you how long ago this was, the Wii was new, and we had a Wii set up, and like we would do that the whole nine. But most people didn't use that, and this is a prestigious job where I'm working with a former president of the United States, so she's not wrong at all. That was literally just bloat to make us feel comfortable, but the comfort didn't. It was a novelty when you were a new hire, but after that, you didn't do much with it outside of it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Except make their game, and when they're done for the day, they want to go out and spend time with their family, their friends, or even work on a pet project. This is a little secret about the games industry that I found, that the best engineers and designers were always working on a pet project in their free time, because doing that work was the core of who they were. It was in the fabric of their being. The same was true of key talent working in big tech companies.
Right in the heart of Silicon Valley, Facebook is cooking up a big new project to expand its...
Look at how massive these places are. It's crazy.
Why would you want to attract talent that wants to spend the day working in the woodworking shop instead of making Instagram great?
Mm-hmm.
The people who had time to spend in the Facebook woodworking shop each day were by definition not key talent. And I can assure you, these people were also the ones complaining about work-life balance and how they were always at work.
How the hell would you have time to do woodworking ever at work? Like,
That's a new one for me. I haven't done woodworking since high school. Might as maybe doing some shit with my grandfather. So,
I mean, I'd love to do it like on my weekends and stuff, maybe, but like I don't want to go to where I work on my weekend to do something different. I would want to go somewhere else. Like,
right.
After providing what is needed for getting the game done, then you have things like health insurance, vacation time, things that are must-haves, but also can be scaled based on your budget and the culture you want to create in the studio.
One of the most higher up people in the offices are the first things you see when you walk in.
It kind of cements home the overall theme where it's like, hey, it's in Chicago, not exactly the hotbed of game development these days. It's just some good old-fashioned Midwestern humility going on down there. It's focused, it's not glitzy, it's not glamorous, but they love their past and they're good at what they do.
It used to be that studios would do everything possible to avoid layoffs. They would cut costs, they would be very careful about managing their projects, because it was only as a last resort that they would do that. And sometimes it worked. They could let people go and then hire them back once they had more financing, once they signed another game.
Mm-hmm.
But lately, that's not what's happening. And it really needs to change because it's not sustainable. I'm hoping that after seeing what's been happening over the last few years, that studios are going to get it together and that we're going to reverse this trend, and that this will no longer be the way that games are made.
I will say, I might disagree a little bit towards the end of this video with what they're saying of, oh, it needs to be better. They need to get their stuff together. I wonder if it's more of a macroeconomic issue financially, where costs have spiraled, where you could take a hit back in the day financially and overcome it. But now everything is exponentially costing more. So when you have a hit, it's like destroys a company. So it might actually, and not to defend game companies, but a lot of this might be out of their hands because of the macroeconomic environment that has been caused with inflation.
Well, we all know that the CEOs, the money men, effectively, now the people actually making the game, are slow on the uptake. And I actually do blame a lot of the Wii PS3, Xbox 360 generation on this, because gaming, like, we've all been gamers for a long time, but I would say that generation was when gaming just exploded into the mainstream. So there was like everyone loves the PS2, everyone loves the Xbox, everyone loves the GameCube, PS3, 360, Wii. That was kind of a game changer in the cultural zeitgeist of gaming, and it makes me wonder how much these companies really over embellished on what they thought the future would be. They really overextended their budgets, hired too many people, whatnot, and then they got caught in that cyclical nature of what she was talking about near the end, and it's never corrected since, the late 2000s.
I just know that, like, back in the day, like, smaller teams were working on these games and they were functioning a lot better for sure.